I found my wife secretly selling our family home to her affair partner for $250, $0. Then I discovered she forged my signature on the paperwork and is now suing me for half of everything, including my pension, in a vicious legal battle over betrayal and millions. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. It started with a gut feeling I couldn't shake, then escalated into a full-blown nightmare I never saw coming. One day, I was just going about my usual routine, and suddenly I stumbled onto something that turned my world upside down. Something so shocking, so twisted, I still can't believe I didn't see it earlier. My wife Lisa had been acting weird for months, but I just blamed it on stress or work. Little did I know, behind that fake smile, she was sneaking around, lying through her teeth, and planning something I would never have suspected, selling our family home to her affair partner for $250,000. And what made it worse? She forged my signature on the paperwork. Lisa and I had been married for over 10 years. We had a nice house, 2 kids, a good life, or so I thought. She was always a little bitchy, always quick to dismiss my feelings, but I figured that was just her personality. Still, I trusted her, or at least I thought I did. She always had an excuse for everything when I asked about her strange behavior. She'd lie, deny, pretend she was the victim. But I noticed subtle changes. Her phone kept ringing at odd hours, she started dressing differently, and she became noticeably more secretive. She'd rush out of the house without explanation, and if I asked her where she was going, she'd snap at me or change the subject. Then, about 2 months ago, I started noticing some odd transactions on our bank account. Small charges here and there, things I didn't recognize. I thought maybe she was shopping or something, but then I saw a large deposit into her account from someone named. That was strange. Was her, sure, but they'd never been close enough to warrant that kind of money. I asked her about it and she brushed me off, saying it was a mistake or a loan she was giving him. Yeah, right. I could tell she was lying, but I didn't have enough proof at that point to confront her. Then came the night I found out for real. I was supposed to be out of town on a business trip, but I decided to check our email just to be sure everything was in order. That's when I saw the email thread, hundreds of messages between Lisa and talking about the deal, the house, the money. My stomach sank. I clicked on the attached documents. They were the actual sale papers with my signature forged at the bottom. My name, my signature, all fake. She was selling our house behind my back, and she was doing it with her affair partner. I still remember the cold rush of shock, then pure rage. How could she do this? How could she betray me like that? I felt sick. That house was everything we built together, our kids' stability, our memories, and she was ready to sell it for some guy she'd been cheating on me with. I couldn't believe. I was married to someone so selfish, so manipulative. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I wanted to scream, to shout, to do something, but I was frozen, just staring at the screen in disbelief. I immediately called her, but she didn't pick up. Instead, she texted me back, some bullshit about how I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that I was imagining things. She had the nerve to deny everything, even though I had proof right in front of me. When I confronted her face to face, she started crying, saying she was under a lot of pressure, and that I was accusing her of something she didn't do. She lied, lied, lied. It was like talking to a wall. I could see the contempt in her eyes, and that only made my blood boil more. I felt a mixture of hurt, anger, and betrayal I'd never experienced before. I'd trusted her with my life, my money, my heart, and she was out there, secretly planning to take everything from me. I thought about the house, the future, the kids. How could she do this? How could she be so cruel? It was like she was willing to burn everything down just to be with. And the worst part, she was now threatening to sue me for half of everything, our savings, my pension, even my inheritance. She wanted to take everything I worked for, all because she was too selfish to end her affair. That night, I stayed up all night trying to process what I'd just discovered. My mind was racing. I knew I couldn't let her get away with this. I had to fight back. I realized I was sitting on a powder keg and I had no idea what was coming next. I just knew I was angry, betrayed, and determined to get to the bottom of this. I couldn't believe I was living through something like this. It was like a bad soap opera, but it was real. And so, I started planning my next move. I knew I had to gather more evidence, talk to a lawyer, and figure out how to protect what was mine. Because if she thought she could just forge my signature and steal our house, she was dead wrong. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything, especially not after what she'd done. The betrayal cut deep, and I was ready to fight for my life, my family, and what was left of my dignity. The next few days were a whirlwind. I spent every free minute digging into her phone, her emails, and our bank accounts. I couldn't believe how deep she'd gone. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. I found hidden bank accounts under fake names, receipts from secret meetings, and even some suspicious messages on her social media. Every new piece of evidence just fueled my anger. I started to see her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who was willing to destroy everything we built just for some cheap thrill with. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I was ready. I arranged to meet her at our favorite coffee shop, pretending everything was normal. She showed up in her usual bitchy attitude, makeup perfect, hair done, acting like she hadn't a care in the world. I sat across from her, my fists clenched, trying to keep my voice steady. I laid out everything I had found, the emails, the forged signatures, the bank transactions. I watched her face change, her eyes narrowing. Then her mask of innocence slipping away. Her reaction was classic. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and started lying again. "You're overreacting, James. You always jump to conclusions. It's just sex, nothing more, in that house. I was just thinking about refinancing it, that's all. I never meant to betray you, I swear." Her voice was dripping with false innocence, but I could see the guilt behind her eyes. She was a terrible liar, and I knew she was panicking now. I didn't buy her bullshit. I told her I'd already spoken to a lawyer and that I was going to take her to court. I also told her I'd be reporting the forged signature to the authorities. That's when she really lost it. She started crying, flipping the script, saying I was ruining her life, that I was paranoid, that she loved me and only wanted to fix things. But I wasn't buying it anymore. Her tears only made me angrier. How could she pretend she cared after everything she'd done? The betrayal was so deep, it was like a knife twisting in my gut. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head, the lies, the sneaking around, the forged signature, the house sale. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. My trust was shattered. I started questioning everything, my judgment, our marriage, my own sanity. Was I just blind? How did I miss all of this? I'd always thought Lisa was ambitious, maybe a little bitchy, but I never thought she'd do something so outright malicious. I sat in my office going through the documents again, trying to find any loopholes or mistakes she might have made. That's when I saw the legal papers she'd filed to sue me for half of everything. My pension, savings, and even the inheritance I'd gotten from my parents. She wanted it all. I couldn't believe her audacity. She was willing to destroy me financially just to keep her affair and her new life with going. I felt so betrayed, so disgusted. How could someone I loved do this to me, to us? It was a nightmare, and I was just beginning to realize how deep the rabbit hole went. I decided I had to act fast. I contacted my lawyer first thing the next morning. We discussed the fake signature, the sale of the house, and her legal threats. The lawyer was shocked but assured me we had options. I needed to get a forensic accountant involved to trace the money she'd taken and find out exactly how much she'd already drained from our accounts. I also had to prepare for a court battle, one I wasn't sure I was ready for emotionally, but I knew I couldn't let her walk all over me. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act, pretending she was the victim, crying crocodile tears, insisting she loved me and only wanted what was best for the family. She threw in some classic gaslighting, saying I was paranoid, that I was turning into the crazy one. That's when I realized the real game. She was trying to manipulate everyone, including the kids, into thinking she was innocent. But I saw through it. I knew her game and I was ready to fight back. I couldn't believe I was living in a house with someone capable of this level of treachery. All those years I'd trusted her, supported her, And now I was faced with the harsh reality that she'd been planning her escape with for who knows how long. I felt a mixture of heartbreak and rage. Heartbreak because I loved her, rage because she'd betrayed everything we shared. The house, our life, our future, all potentially gone if I didn't act fast. That night I sat alone in the dark, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. I knew this was only the beginning. I had to stay strong, stay smart, and fight for what was mine before she took it all away. I'd never felt so betrayed in my life. It was like waking up in a nightmare, one I couldn't wake up from. But I also knew I wasn't going down without a fight. This was a war, and I was going to win it, no matter how dirty she wanted to play. The legal consultations and evidence gathering took up most of my days after that. I spent hours with my lawyer, trying to figure out how deep her lies went and how to disarm her next move. I had to be careful. Lisa was manipulative, and I knew she'd try to spin the story in her favor, maybe even turn the kids against me. She was already calling friends and family, painting herself as the victim, claiming I was paranoid and controlling. I could see her doing that, trying to ruin my reputation and make me look like the bad guy. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. One thing I discovered during this process was that she'd already transferred a significant chunk of money from our joint account into that secret account under her fake name. I had the bank do a forensic audit, and it confirmed she'd taken nearly $100, $0. That was just the start. She was planning to sell the house, split the money, and leave me with nothing, while still trying to sue me for half of everything I'd accumulated over the years. I couldn't believe the audacity. She was willing to destroy our entire life together just for some guy and a quick buck. I also found out she'd forged my signature on the sale papers. The documents were almost perfect, but my lawyer brought in a handwriting expert, and they confirmed it was a clear forgery. That was a game changer. It meant I could potentially have her criminally charged, which I was planning to do. But I also knew I had to act fast. She might try to hide more assets, or make a run for it if I didn't stop her. I felt like I was in a race against time, trying to piece everything together before she could slip away with everything. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act of innocence. She'd cry and plead, saying she made a mistake, that she only wanted the best for the family, and that I was overreacting. But I saw right through her. Her eyes were cold when she thought no one was looking. I knew she was lying, and I was furious. How could she do this? How could she betray me and our kids like this? It was like a punch to the gut every time I thought about how she'd been planning this behind my back for months, maybe longer. One of the most shocking moments came when I confronted her again, this time armed with all the evidence. I told her I knew about the forged signature, the secret accounts, the sale of the house. Her face turned ghostly pale. She started to stutter, denying everything, then suddenly burst into tears. She claimed she'd made a terrible mistake, that she'd been stressed, that she loved me and didn't want to hurt the kids, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I could see her desperation. She knew her lies were unraveling and she was trying to save herself. That confrontation was the breaking point for me. I realized I couldn't trust her anymore, not even a little. All those years I'd given her the benefit of the doubt, tried to see the good in her, were gone. She was a liar, a thief, and a manipulator. The woman I thought I knew was nothing but a stranger hiding behind a mask. I felt a deep sense of loss, not just of the marriage, but of the person I'd loved and trusted. It was a painful realization, one that left me feeling hollow and betrayed beyond words. I also started thinking about the kids. How would I tell them? How would I explain that their mother was trying to take everything from us, including the house they grew up in? I didn't want to scare them, but I knew I had to be honest. I started drafting a plan to talk to them carefully, to shield them from the worst while still being truthful. I didn't want them to grow up thinking their mother was some kind of villain, but I also couldn't pretend everything was fine anymore. Their stability was at risk, and I had to protect them from the fallout. Every day since then, I've felt like I'm walking a tightrope. One side is rage, betrayal, and heartbreak. The other is trying to stay calm, rational, and focused on the legal battle ahead. I know she's going to fight me tooth and nail. She's already threatened to drag me through courts for years, claiming I'm the problem. But I also know I have the truth on my side. The forged signature, the secret accounts, the house sale, these aren't just accusations, they're facts. And I'm going to use every bit of it to fight back. Honestly, I don't know what the end game is yet. Part of me wants to just walk away, forget everything, and start over. But another part is furious and refuses to let her get away with this. I have a lot of legal hurdles ahead, and I'm bracing myself for a long, exhausting battle. But I also feel a strange sense of clarity, like I finally see her for what she really is. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but I know I'll come out of this stronger. Or at least I hope so. Right now, all I can do is keep fighting for what's mine and hope that someday I can rebuild from this chaos. The legal process dragged on longer than I expected. Every day felt like a new attack, a new twist in this nightmare. Lisa continued to spin her web of lies, trying to paint herself as the victim in all of this. She told everyone, her friends, her family, even some of the neighbors, that I was controlling, paranoid, and that I'd lost my mind. She claimed I was jealous of her affair that I was trying to ruin her reputation out of some twisted jealousy. It was all bullshit, but I could see she was good at manipulating people with her bitchy, fake tears and false stories. Meanwhile, I was gathering more evidence. I brought in forensic accountants to trace every dollar she'd taken, and they found even more hidden transfers. This time, over $50, $0 more from our joint accounts. I also got a court order to freeze her assets, including her secret bank accounts and any property she might try to sell. It was a minor victory, but it bought me some time. I knew she'd try to find a way around it, especially since she was already scheming to sell the house without my knowledge. One of the most stressful parts was dealing with the house sale. I discovered she'd already signed documents transferring ownership, forged my signature, and hidden the sale from me. I filed a motion to stop the sale, but she was trying to push it through anyway. I had to get a temporary restraining order to prevent her from finalizing it. That's when I realized how far she was willing to go. She'd have sold our home out from under me if I hadn't caught her in time. It was a brutal blow. That house wasn't just bricks and mortar. It was a symbol of everything I'd worked for, and she was trying to erase it all. Throughout all this, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of betrayal. I'd spent years building a life, a family, and now it felt like it was slipping through my fingers because of her greed and lies. The worst part was how she kept pretending to be innocent even as her lies unraveled. She'd come home, act like everything was fine, then go right back to scheming behind my back. I saw her sneaking around, hiding her phone, deleting messages, trying to stay 2 steps ahead of me. It was exhausting, like fighting a ghost. The emotional toll was staggering. I felt angry, betrayed, and utterly heartbroken. I kept asking myself how I missed all of this, how I let someone I loved so much become this manipulative, dishonest person. Every night I'd lie awake replaying the betrayal, feeling the sting of her lies and the weight of her deception. I'd never felt so alone, so helpless. I was angry at myself for trusting her, angry at her for doing this, and furious at how she was trying to destroy me legally. It was like she was willing to burn everything down just to keep her affair with alive. Soon, I had to face the legal reality. The court scheduled a hearing to decide on the house sale and the division of assets. I prepared my case meticulously, gathering every piece of evidence, signed documents, bank statements, witness testimony from friends who knew about her affair. I was ready to fight her in court, to expose her lies and prove she'd forged my signature. I knew this was going to be a long, exhausting fight, but I wasn't giving up. I had to protect what was left of my life, my reputation, and the future of my kids. In the meantime, I started thinking about what I really wanted. I was angry, yes, but I also knew I needed to stay calm and focused. I had to decide whether to fight for the marriage or cut my losses and move on. Every time I saw her smirk or fake tears, I felt the urge to lash out, but I knew that wouldn't help. I needed clarity, something I'd lost in this chaos. I realized I had to put my own emotional health first, even if it meant walking away from everything I'd ever known. The betrayal was so deep that I wondered if I could ever trust again, but I also knew I had to protect myself and my children from further damage. As I sat in my lawyer's office planning the next steps, I couldn't help but think about how life had changed so suddenly. One moment, I was a man with a stable future, a loving wife, and a family. The next, I was fighting to keep what's mine, fighting to prove her lies, fighting to stay sane. But amidst all the chaos, a small part of me also felt a strange sense of clarity. I saw her for what she truly was, a woman capable of betrayal, greed, and deception. And I knew I had to be stronger than her. I had to stay firm, hold my ground, and do whatever it took to get through this. Because if I didn't, I'd lose everything. My house, my savings, my dignity. And I wasn't going to let her take that away without a fight. The court date finally arrived after what felt like an eternity. I was nervous but determined. I knew Lisa would pull every trick in the book to sway the judge, more lies, false tears, and manipulative stories. She already tried to paint me as some controlling, jealous husband who was paranoid about her affair. I had to stay focused, present my evidence clearly, and show that she forged my signature to sell our house, that she drained our accounts illegally, and that she's been lying about everything. The morning of the hearing, I sat in the courtroom feeling like I was about to face a battle for my life. My lawyer had prepared a solid case, including the forensic report on the forged signature, bank records, and witness statements from friends who knew about her affair with. I also had the evidence of her illegal transfers and the fake sale documents. I felt a strange mixture of fear and resolve. I knew I was fighting for my future, for my kids' future, and for what little dignity I could salvage from this mess. Lisa arrived in her usual bitchy, entitled manner, dressed to impress, trying to look innocent. She was already spinning her lies to the judge, talking about how I was abusive, controlling, and how she only wanted to fix our marriage. She was good at acting, but I saw through her. Her eyes betrayed her desperation, and her fake tears only made me angrier. I knew she was trying to manipulate the court, but I had enough evidence to expose her lies. When it was my turn to speak, I laid everything out calmly but firmly. I explained how she forged my signature, how she secretly sold the house, and how she transferred thousands of dollars into hidden accounts. I presented the forensic report, the bank statements, and the signed documents showing the forgery. I told the judge that Lisa had been planning this for months, that she had no intention of working on our marriage, only of taking everything I worked for. I emphasized that I wanted her to be held accountable, not just for the financial crimes but also for the emotional damage she'd caused. Lisa's lawyer tried to attack my credibility, claiming I was paranoid and trying to ruin her reputation. But I stood my ground. I knew the truth, and I had evidence to back it up. As I finished, I felt a strange sense of relief. Finally, I was being heard. The judge took everything into consideration, and after some deliberation, he ordered a temporary injunction to prevent Lisa from selling or transferring any more assets. He also scheduled a follow-up hearing to decide on the division of property and assets, including the house. In the days following the hearing, I started to feel a little more hopeful. I knew this was just the beginning of a long legal battle, but I had the upper hand now. I also started working on the emotional side, talking to a therapist, trying to process the betrayal and focusing on my kids. I didn't want them to see me broken, even though inside I was shattered. I knew I had to be strong for them, for myself. I also reached out to some close friends who knew about Lisa's affair. Their support was invaluable. They reminded me that I wasn't crazy, that I'd done nothing wrong, and that I deserved better. Slowly, I started realizing that I'd been living in a nightmare, but I was waking up. This whole ordeal had made me see her true colors, and I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. I've been blind for too long, but now I was finally seeing the truth clearly. Now I'm at a crossroads. Part of me still hopes she'll come to her senses and try to fix what she broke, but deep down, I know her mind is made up. She's already trying to build her new life with, regardless of the damage she's done. The house, my savings, my pension. She wants it all, and she's willing to lie, forge, steal, and manipulate to get it. I've realized I need to protect what's mine, even if that means going to war in court. I can't let her take everything I've worked so hard for. This experience has changed me forever. I used to trust blindly, believe in happily ever after. Now, I see the world differently. People are capable of incredible betrayal, and sometimes the only way to survive is to fight back fiercely. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I do know I'm not giving up. I'll keep fighting for my future, for my kids, and for the truth. Because if I don't, she'll just keep taking from me, and I refuse to let her win. After the court's initial ruling, the reality of everything that had happened started to settle in. I felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. The judge's order to freeze her assets and halt the house sale was a small victory, but I knew Lisa wouldn't go down without a fight. She immediately hired a new lawyer, and the legal battle intensified. Every day, I felt like I was fighting an uphill battle, her lies, manipulations, and attempts to spin. The story kept coming, but I was determined not to let her win. Throughout this process, I focused on rebuilding myself. I started therapy, not just to deal with the emotional fallout, but to find some clarity. I realized how much I'd sacrificed and how much I'd let her manipulate me over the years. That realization hurt, but it also gave me strength. I refused to be a victim anymore. I was going to stand up for myself and for what was rightfully mine. I learned to trust my instincts again, to see through her false tears and manipulative stories. The children, thankfully, remained mostly shielded from the worst of it. I kept their lives as normal as possible, making sure they felt loved and safe despite the chaos. I explained to them in simple terms that sometimes adults make mistakes and that Mommy was trying to fix her mistakes. I promised to protect them and make sure they always knew the truth, no matter what. Watching them grow, I knew I had to be strong for their sake, not just for me. As months went by, the legal battles dragged on. Lisa kept trying to challenge the court's orders, claiming she was the victim and that I was trying to ruin her. Her new lawyer pushed hard, but I had enough evidence to counter her every move. The forged signature, the hidden accounts, the illegal transfers, all of it painted a clear picture. I was able to prove she'd been lying about her intentions, that her claims of saving the marriage were just a cover-up for her greed. Eventually, the courts ordered her to return the money she'd stolen and to relinquish her claim on the house. She was also ordered to pay a hefty fine for the forgery and illegal transfers. It was a long, exhausting process, but I finally saw some justice. The house was awarded to me, and I was granted sole custody of the kids. I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders, like I finally had some control over my life again. Looking back, I realize how much I've grown from this ordeal. I learned to trust myself, to recognize red flags early, and most importantly, to stand up for what's right. The betrayal cut deep, but it also opened my eyes to the kind of person Lisa truly was. I can't say I'm completely healed. There's still a lot of pain, and I don't know if I'll ever fully trust again. But I do know I've become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs of betrayal or manipulation. Gather evidence, protect yourself legally, and don't be afraid to fight for what's yours. The road is tough, and it's easy to feel defeated, but in the end, honesty and persistence win out. I've learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to realize your own strength. And no matter how dark things seem, there's always a way to find the light again, even if it takes time. Now I focus on rebuilding my life one step at a time. I'm working on healing, on reconnecting with my kids, and on creating a fresh start. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I've survived the worst, and I'm finally ready to move forward. Her betrayal was a blow, but it also set me free. I've learned the hard way that trust isn't something to take for granted, but resilience is something everyone can find within themselves. And I plan to hold on to that resilience no matter what comes next.